This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be putting on a show for the king. But the king is very moody. Sometimes he's in the mood for some comedies. And then some other times he might be feeling a little melancholy and he wants a tragedy. So today we're going to be trying to do that, put on those plays with different actors. We're looking at Histrio. This is the latest game from designer Bruno Cathala, and it's also co-designed by Christian Martinez. And this is a 2 to 5 player game. Let me show you how it's played. It takes about 40 minutes to play the game. I'll give you a quick overview, and I'll see you on the other side for my final thoughts. This game's all about putting on shows with actors, either comedies or tragedies. Here's what the money looks like in this game. There's a heads and a tails. He's sort of sad, like a tragedy, and this is sort of happy. And so you would actually flip this coin, and whatever weighs up, that's how the game's going to start. Now red is tragedy, and yellow is comedy. And since we did comedy, we will flip this back from tragedy to comedy, and we start this on the closest one. It's number 1. Now there's 8 locations in the game. Each player is going to start with 8 caravels, or sort of ships, that are going to take them to those locations, and 3 managers that look like knights. They're going to get a stack of cards, 8 cards, 1 for each of the locations that's in the game. And finally, players get 3 money in the game, and here's a closer look at what that looks like. Now to start the game, there's 1 card placed in every location. Now how a round works is each player is going to secretly go to one of these locations and resolve the cards that are there. So it's simultaneous action selection, face down. Once everyone has done, they will flip it up and they will see which area they are going to. So we have green going to 6, blue going to 5, and orange going to Brigadala 4. Now the cards that they place essentially are discarded, and they place one of their caravels in the spot that they went, and those cards go to a personal discard pile of their own. Then starting with the lowest numbers and going way up, they will get resolved. And sometimes there'll be more than 1 card here. You always resolve from the bottom up. So this player, to remind him that he went here, he'll go here, and they get to do this special action. This allows them to steal a coin from an opponent. This allows the player to get 2 coins from the bank, and then this will be discarded. This one, he has to pay a coin to the bank, but it's worth 5. Now, with the cards that they have in their hand, they have an option. If they would like to discard that card, they can discard it and change or influence the king's mood right now. This yellow are comedy characters and red are tragedy characters. So let's say this guy, he wanted to discard this and move the yellow up in the mood. Now this player wanted to discard this yellow 5, so they discarded it and they moved this up 5. So now the king's mood is he really likes a comedy right now. Now remember, regardless of the amount of cards here, they can always discard one of them to do what I just showed you. Otherwise, they don't have to do that, and all the other cards just go face down in front of them. Now, if more than 1 player went to a location, both of these go to the location and no one gets these cards. You resolve them from bottom up, and any of the ones that are actors, the ones with the colors red or yellow, move the king's needle that much. So this would move it 2 towards the red. It was a yellow 6, now it's going to be a yellow 4. And then these cards get discarded. Now because when you go to a location with somebody else, you don't get any cards and nothing gets resolved except the king's mood. Each person that was there gets 1 secret card, secret request card. And the artwork in this game is just absolutely amazing. This one, now the game is 2 seasons long, and you're able to use these cards once per season. So here, the wet nurse, gain 5 money if you have no actors with experience 4 or 5. And when we say experience, for example, this one is an experience of 5. Or maybe the card would say, gain 2 money for each actor of experience 1 in your troupe. Or maybe gain 1 money for each of the caravels on the board. So however many locations you've been to, you'll get 1 money for each of those. Again, these are plays at the end of the round that I'm going to show you, but I want to show you that artwork. Now you can only have a maximum of 3. So if you have 3 of these and you get another one, you got to discard 1. But these are kept secret and played at the end of the round if you have that condition fulfilled. Now that would be the end of the round. Now if any player has just 1 travel card left, meaning they have their caravels on every place on the board except 1, they would then retrieve all their cards from their discard pile and put them back in their hand and take their caravels back. They sort of reset their hand. After that, basically all of these are going to get refilled with 1 card, regardless if there's a card there or not. And as you can tell, some of them now have 2 cards, some have 1 card, so some of these piles are going to get more and more appealing as time goes on, but you need to be the only person to go there to get the actual cards and the benefits from those, which makes for interesting decisions. Now, I want to talk about some cards before we get to end season scoring. The ones allow you to refresh your discard. You pull all your caravels back off the board and you put all your cards back in your hand, refreshing your decisions. Some of these cards allow you to do special abilities, but only once per season, and a season lasts as long as all the cards are in the draw pile to refill this every round. And per season you can turn them to use them, and they do different things. Like this guy, for example, during the travel phase, choose your card after the other players have revealed theirs. Cool, they give you all sorts of special abilities like that. Or the fox might, when multiple players have chosen the same city, change the king's mood in the opposite direction, from comedy to tragedy. We're going to talk about what that does in just a moment. And the last card I want to show you here is this allows you to put one of your managers on the stage. So when you resolve that card, so they'll take their manager if they use that card, and they will put him right on the stage. They get as many coins as guys that's on there, so he'd get a coin. But then later on, let's say they get it again. And let's say they do the number 3 card, they get the manager, and they put it here again, and now they get 2 coins and so on and so forth. So the more managers that go on there, the more people are going to want to go there. Now, we talked about the changing mood. Now, if the mood ever changes for the king, right now it's comedy, but let's say this thing swapped and went over here to the tragedy side, all of the people that were there, it changes and they get swept back off the stage. People get their managers back, and it's now tragedy is the show that the king wants to see, and that's probably the coolest part of the whole game. Now at the end of the season, whatever the king's mood is, he wanted to see the tragedy because we just put him to tragedy. You'd get 1 coin for each person in your troupe. Remember, these are the ones that are face down in front of you that you've gotten earlier in the round. So I would get 2 coins there. We'd also see whose show pleases the king. And it pleases the king if you have more of that kind. For example, I have a 4 and a 1 of tragedy and a 2 of comedy. So 5 minus 2 is 3 for tragedy, and since his mood is tragedy, I would please the king. You get 3 coins during the end of the first season and 5 coins at the end of the second season for pleasing him. Now that 3 and 5 coins in the first and second season are doubled if you have the best show. So for example, I had 3 for tragedy. If I had the most towards tragedy, I would have doubled that because that pleases the king the most. I can then use one of my secret cards that I got earlier to flip over and get 1 coin in this case for each of my caravels on the board. And this stays up. If this is season 1, this stays up because at the end of season 2, I get to activate this again along with flipping over another one. So at the end of the game, as most you're going to have is 2 of these secret things face up. We would then play through a whole nother season, which means putting all these cards back, shuffling them, going through a whole nother season, and then whoever has the most money in the end is the winner. In case of a tie, victory is shared. There's a 2-player variant. Let's say I'm orange. I get to freely choose which card I'm going to place face down, like normal. Now I get to look at this troupe. Each player takes a second troupe's color. They take their caravels and their managers, and before they select their card, they can secretly see where this player is going. So they know either not to go for 6 or maybe they want to. Now if 2 people go to the same spot, same as before, you don't get any of the cards. They all get discarded but move the king's mood. And this is just a way for you to get one little piece of information but still having the board be slightly busy. Alright, well there it is, Histrio. So what did I think? Well, it's no secret that Bruno Cathala is my favorite designer, but it's also no secret that in the last year or 2, he has been on fire and on a roll. I mean, 5 Tribes was my game of the year and was on many lists of nominations for possible game of the year a couple years ago. Last year, he came out with 7 Wonders Duel that he co-designed and Raptor that he co-designed, and even more recently this year, Zany Penguins, and a couple of those made a lot of 2-player Game of the Year nomination lists last year. And so he's been on just a huge roll. So when I get a game from him, not only because it's my favorite designer and because he's been so successful lately, you have super high hopes for every game that comes out. So looking through that lens, when you look at this game, let me talk about the things that I liked the most about it. First of all, the production of this game really draws you in. That stage, I mean, you might look at it and go, oh, that's kind of gimmicky. And sure, it probably is a little bit, but it really is thematic. It's so cool where you're sending your managers up to the stage and you're getting money because they're performing. And like you got this moody king, and the king wants more sad, and then he wants less sad, and then he flips over to the other side, he wants a comedy because his mood's changing, and all the people on the stage are like, oh well, you guys are trained for that, let's flip you over, let's get comedy, those guys get pulled off. And that's just like, that is, to me, was the most fun of this game, is pushing and pulling. This game has a lot going on for a lot of different mechanisms that I did enjoy. It was like a tug of war, right? You're trying to tug of war with other players, you might be going for a bunch of comedies, they might be going for a bunch of tragedies, and you've got this tug of war going on, but there's other things to focus on. Do I want to go get coins just right off the bat? Do I want to get some of those acrobats that give me those special abilities that if I use at the right time can really put things in my hand? When you go, it's got that guessing aspect, that whole, hey, where do I think he's going to go? I don't really want to go there because we're going to both kind of get screwed here. So where am I going to go? And as the rounds go on, some of those cities look more and more appealing, but then of course more and more people might want to go there, and you have that guessing game. But when you do go there and you've guessed with somebody else, all those go and change the king's mood, but then you each get that special card that allows you to score at the end, so you get that sort of consolation prize. And that's interesting too, because then that begins to give you focus. So all in all the mechanisms fit well together with the game. The artwork is amazing, those little cute little bunny characters, and then all those characters that have different abilities of putting people on the stage and stealing coins and this and that, and taking your all your city things back. So overall, awesome artwork, awesome production, interesting mechanisms. I like the biggest decisions are, hey, I'm working on comedy and I want comedy, and I'm trying to have the best troupe for comedy, but to get those, I might have to discard cards that I don't want. I'm trying to keep comedy because I have that, but then I have to discard those cards in order to keep that mood to the way I want. It almost reminded me a little bit of some of the scoring in his recent card game, Zany Penguins, where you're trying to build a certain troupe in an area, but in order to really score that, you have to get rid of the cards that you need. And that was a really interesting decision in the game. With all that being said, it might sound like I'm absolutely loving this game, and you might be just saying, well, it's just a Bruno game, he's gonna love it. Actually, I didn't love the game. Overall, I thought the game was fine. It was interesting, there was good choices, and the production value brought me in further to the game than I probably normally would have with a game like this. So overall, the game is fine. If you came to me and said, hey Dave, I got Histrio, let's play it, sure, I'll play it, it's interesting, it's fun, let's play it. But I don't think it's nearly on the pedestal, or it's not going to be talked about, it's not going to be on lists as the 5 Tribes, the Raptors, the 7 Wonders Duel. This is sort of a step down for me, but hey, look, somebody cannot create games of the year quality in every game the guy does. He's on a roll. This one is good, it's solid, but it didn't blow me away. For me, it was just a little bit better than average. Wasn't average, wasn't great, it was just a solid good for me. So that's what I think about Histrio, and we'll see what's coming up with Bruno later this year. There's some exciting things coming out, but Histrio, the production value itself might just draw you in, and that's it.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter, making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.